Hi, everybody. This is Bree on the Marquee, and we're going to explore my predictions for tomorrow's Golden Globe Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical. Let's get started. So, this year's comedy musical actor category is more competitive potentially than the drama category, and I don't know that that's usually the case. And I think the reason is structural. We have at least two, arguably three performances here where the entire film is architect around the actor. Not just strong lead work, but true title character dominance. The kind of performance where the script, the rhythm of the film, the emotional engine, basically everything depend on whether that actor works. I think that matters with the Globes. They tend to reward visibility, centrality, and narrative dominance. The three films that fit the description for me, where the actor is basically the entire script is built around them, would be Jay Kelly, Blue Moon, and Marty Supreme. They're not necessarily ensemble showcases, but they're meant to be films that are based around one character, one presence, one gravitational center. That's a very different situation from someone doing exceptional work inside a broader ensemble, unless they absolutely steal the show, which sometimes we see in the supporting categories. By contrast, some of the other nominees who are brilliant actors and genuinely strong performers are still functioning essentially in a shared space. Jesse Plemons, for example, he's brilliant in Begonia, but he's working opposite the major award winner, Emma Stone, in a very deliberate two-hander dynamic. He's not carrying the entire architecture of Begonia on his back. And that doesn't diminish his work. I believe he definitely deserves to be here. But I do think it affects how these things tend to play with the voting body, at least for this year. Jesse Plemons' performance was hilarious. It was well timed. He absolutely looked the part. And I walked out of Begonia absolutely loving him. And I always love Emma Stone, but he was a big standout for me. And I think this film, I mean, it's been nominated in several categories. So it's definitely got the support of the film behind it. I just don't know if his spot in the leading category is going to be enough for a win. Lee Byung-hun and No Other Choice is a different matter. This is his first Globe nomination, and frankly, I think it's overdue. He's been magnetic for years, and I adored him in Squid Games. He was one of my favorite performers in that entire series. And he's one of those actors who brings authority and specificity to everything he touches and has really become recognizable on a global scale. And yes, he's attractive. And no, that's not a technical metric, but let's not pretend presence isn't part of cinema. I'm genuinely thrilled to see him here, and the film itself also landed a Best Film Non English Language nomination, which I think increases the level of support that he has, but I do think he's more of a long shot here. If this were purely my ballot, I think he's my personal favorite in the lineup within this category. But then we go to Leonardo DiCaprio this year stars in One Battle After Another, in case you haven't heard of it, who I don't think anyone is going to casually eliminate. The Globes adore him. 15 nominations and 3 wins. And they've been nurturing that relationship for decades. He's also in the film generating the most industry buzz overall. And it has been 10 years since his last win for The Revenant in 2016. And if he pulled off an upset here, I don't think anyone in the room would be confused. He's entered in that rare tier now of Meryl Streep, Jack Nicholson, where the reverence is institutional, and it's pretty much a given that if he's in a quality film, he's going to be nominated somewhere, someplace. So I definitely would not be ruling out Leo here.
First off, thank you to the Hollywood Foreign Press. I never would have guessed I would have won for Best Actor in a Comedy. So I'd like to pay some congratulations to my fellow comedians here tonight, Christian Bale.
Let's not forget, this is also a voting body that has historically shown deep affection for George Clooney. He has 14 nominations across acting, directing, writing, and television. And these relationships matter more than people like to admit. And I don't think Jay Kelly got quite the reception that we thought it was going to, but It is a fantastic film. It was one of my favorite films of the year. And I really loved it. I loved him. I love Sandler. I love Crudup. And I've talked about that in previous videos. But I wouldn't completely rule him out here, but I don't think he's going to be the one to win. Now, when I take a step back and I look at the field analytically, the two performances that seem the most likely to convert nomination into win are the two we haven't talked much about yet, and that's Timothee Chalamet for Marty Supreme and Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon. Chalamet has 5 Golden Globe nominations so far and no wins. He was nominated just last year for A Complete Unknown, and I did a whole video on that. That's usually the moment when the conversation quietly shifts towards we're going to give him one sooner rather than later, 2 back-to-back films. But interestingly, that's also the case for Plemons. I mean, he doesn't have the track record with the Globes that Chalamet does, but Plemons was also nominated last year. Hawke, interestingly, is also sitting on 3 nominations with no wins. So this creates a similar undercurrent, deep respect. He has a long career and a sense that he's due. Looking at Chalamet and Marty Supreme, he's maximalist, highly visible, culturally embedded in the film, and it's the kind of work that becomes part of the season's identity. Not to mention that he waited until Christmas to premiere the film. There was the embargo, and we talked about that in another video. But I do know that there was not the opportunity to view this film as timely as the Globe's voting body may have for some of the others. And I don't know if that's going to work against him here. And I've also wondered about the relatability of Marty Supreme to the Globe's voting body and how that's going to play out. But I mean, if you remember, his character does go overseas to play ping pong. And so we see some international filming there. And I mean, it's a very on point performance. And as much as I hate to admit it and has completely over the top style that can be off putting for some of us, I do think that in this film, he shines. And this is perhaps one of the roles that he was born to play. And I don't know that we would have a Marty Supreme film without Timothée Chalamet. I think it was designed for him. Similarly, Ethan Hawke for his portrayal of Lorenz Hart in Blue Moon, the only other person that I've thought could have potentially played that part with conviction was Billy Crudup. I thought of him a few times in the role, especially after having recently watched his performance of method acting mentioned in Jay Kelly, where I thought, okay, he might have been able to do this. But Hawke had this script designed for him, and he really becomes this part. I mean, we're limited to 1 or I think 2 settings within the film, but he is absolutely transformative within this film, and it's a career performance. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we do see a win from Hawke here. I think we are going to see that at Screen Actors Guild, but I'm just not sure 100% about the Globes tomorrow. I would say that Hawke's performance is more internal, more literary, and more actorly. A portrayal of Lorenz Hart that requires the viewer to lean in rather than applaud outwardly. And sometimes that hurts, sometimes that helps. But I mean, it's a performance that you could easily see being played out on the stage. And it's fantastic acting. So, what makes the category genuinely tricky for me is that I'm not confident enough to put serious money on it here. I do have some, more so on the long shots, just because I think there could be an upset, but I'm not definitively going with, as I was with Critics' Choice, with Chalamet, who is considered the front runner by most of the outlets such as Gold Derby, and I believe Kalshi has him picked there as the lead. But just looking back at previous years and the Globes not having a problem awarding previous nominees, but also their tendency to pull a surprise or quote unquote an upset, I think that this could look a little bit different, and I'm really excited for what we're going to see tomorrow. And I think this is very different from last year, where I was very certain that Adrian Brody was an absolute lock for the drama category. I did call Sebastian Stan, who won in the comedy musical category. He was nominated twice that evening, also for The Apprentice. And so I think it was clear that the Globes really liked him. And I mean, it was a stellar year for him. But this year, we have some really, really strong standout contenders. So if If you're asking me for my prediction, I mean, the popular vote is going to be Chalamet, but I think we could see an upset here from Hawke. And I will say that in this one, my confidence level is a bit lower than I'd like. And perhaps that's a little bit of personal bias, but we'll just have to see. And honestly, it's kind of refreshing because normally it's just like, oh, yep, that was a given. But I think it'll be exciting to see who's going to get this one tomorrow. Thank you very much.